All right, welcome to Book Club. I'm Dylan, here with Keith. I had nothing for this one. I honestly didn't.
I'm here with Dylan, and if you're ever feeling down, just get attacked by a polar bear, and you'll feel better.
Oh, yeah, nothing gets your blood up like getting attacked by a polar bear. I guess I'm the polar bear in your life, yeah.
Do you know how much a polar bear weighs, D-Man?
Enough to break the ice. We're breaking down some bestsellers, and this week we'll be discussing The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. It's a New York Times bestseller, and I feel like it's a buddy book club special because we don't usually do book club books, I feel like. Right?
I feel like we've done a few. We haven't really liked a lot of them.
Yeah, I feel like our TJR books are probably book clubby. Michelle Obama's Becoming, coming next week. If you'd like to recommend a book for us to read or reach out to us about any past episodes, you can visit our website, buddybookclub.com, or sign to our DMs on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes and Spotify, so please download and subscribe. Keith, 4.0 on Goodreads is The Midnight Library. Mm-hmm. Overall, I would say that's pretty good, but I feel like a 4.0 is almost like a 70 on Rotten Tomatoes, you know?
Yeah, it's fresh, but it's not super fresh.
But it gets pretty tight on Goodreads because, like, you don't find anything over 4 or 5.
Like Harry Potter is a 4.6, which is, I think, one of the highest rated books on Goodreads.
Yeah, that's like one of those movies on Rotten Tomatoes that, like, how did someone not like this? How is this a 99? Like, how's The Godfather a 99 right now, or whatever the case was? Okay, well, let's just dive right into it. Stock up, stock down. Midnight Library, Matt Haig, what you got?
Stock up stories that are set outside of the U.S.
Okay.
This book just couldn't take place in America. It just couldn't.
How so?
Let's run through it here. Spoilers, but the end of the book, she comes back to the real world. She goes to the ER. She stays in the hospital for like 6 or 7 days recovering. Mm-hmm. Gets out in a good mood, and she's like, you know what? I'm going to start doing more piano lessons and volunteering and doing all these things. She lives in an apartment by herself. She has no other income other than piano lessons, which I don't think pay that well. She has a $100K bill from the hospital if this were America.
Oh, yeah.
She has a massive college debt if this were America. She can't do any of this stuff. There's nothing she can do. She's going to be riddled with debt. She's going to be like stuck in her position. She's been working a minimum wage job. She's been basically working at like a Guitar Center for the last 10 years. So I don't really understand where she can go.
Yeah, if this was America, she'd have 1 week of happiness, and then that medical bill would come in the mail, and she'd just reach for the bottle of the antidepressants, you know, because you'd realize, like, oh, the interest on this bill is more than I'm making in piano lessons.
In America, she wouldn't have health insurance working at Guitar Center.
Yeah,
she wouldn't have that, so it'd be out of pocket. They'd be a $100K bill, and then they'd be like, you know what, we'll do you a solid. If you pay right now, straight cash, it'll be $85K. We'll do you a solid.
I feel like you can just disregard medical bills. People tell me that, and I'm not sure if it's true.
I've called and been like, I can't pay this. Can I give you and I just mentioned something that's lower, and they're like, yeah, that's fine. And then they just write it out. I'm like, wait, what? It actually works.
What have you done that for?
I just basically say I can't pay this full amount. And they usually are like, well, if you can pay this amount right now, we can clear it. And I say, oh, okay.
Are we getting too personal here? But like, what medical bill did you have that was so high? Like, did you have an adult circumcision or something?
There hasn't been any. I'm just saying that's what I did. I mean, I could pay them, but I didn't want to pay the full amount.
So it'd be like a $30 copay, and you'd be like,
no. I went to the ER. It wasn't anything big deal. It was just like the doctor told me to go just in case, and it was over $1,000. I think it was $2,000 just to walk in the door.
Wow.
The ER. I'll have a gunshot wound. I won't go to the ER next time. I was so upset because the doctor told me to go. I was calling the doctor, and they're like, "Yeah, just go in. You're gonna get all this. You're gonna need blood work and stuff. Just go in." And I was like, "All right, whatever." And I was like, "No, never again. I'll listen to a doctor. They don't know anything they're talking about. Everything's fake."
Okay. Interesting. My first stock up is related, I guess. Being in a coma. Yes. So normally, if someone said, "Hey, not gonna be able to show up to work tomorrow, my wife's in a coma," I'd say, like, holy shit, that is honestly some of the worst news you could have provided me. Take whatever time you need, that kind of thing. But when you're in a coma, you actually just go on this awesome adventure. You're like Bilbo Baggins. Gandalf just showed up with some dwarves, and you're about to go on an adventure. So I was like, maybe it was just her. But no, the other slider she met, he was like, oh, yeah, I'm in a coma, or whatever the case was. So it's like, so everyone in a coma is just living these different lives and having a blast doing it. You know, I might walk into traffic tomorrow just to see what happens.
How about the fact also that they were just coming out saying, "Oh, I'm a slider," and they don't even reference the TV show, the great TV show, Sliders.
Well, I guess I'm going to burn my next stock up, which is Sliders, because...
Yeah, we've talked about this before, too.
Have we? Okay. So you've seen Sliders, then?
Oh, of course.
For those that haven't, Jerry O'Connell, a young fat boy who turned into a very skinny man, and Gimli, son of Gloin, another Lord of the Rings reference, he's in it. They use this computer or whatever.
It's exactly this.
Got into a wormhole, but then they can't get out. But every certain amount of time, they have to go and enter the wormhole, or else they get stuck for like decades. Just a great premise to show. And then I saw recently, because, watching Football Sundays or whatnot, they redid it with this guy. It's like Quantum Leap or something like that. Honestly, looks terrible. And realistically, we could probably go back and watch Sliders and say, whoa,
it'd be awful,
it is not good. but in my brain, it is. And in a minute library.
And at the time, it was revolutionary, I felt like, to me.
Yeah. Well, they did actually, I think, go back to the Revolutionary War, but it went the other way. So, spoiler alert for Sliders. What else do you have for stock up?
Stock up, Night at the Museum. I don't know why. This might just be my brain, but for some reason, I kept thinking this book was just going to be the hilarious, and by hilarious, I mean, okay.
I enjoyed
comedy, Night at the Museum.
Yeah.
There's 4 of them?
No.
That's kind of crazy, right? Yeah.
No.
I think one's animated.
It's on my list somewhere in my movies archives. It's probably like a 2 plus for me, which is like out of 4. You know what I mean?
It's a Sunday movie. It's a Sunday
it's a
comedy
great,
movie.
shitty Sunday movie.
Yeah. They're not that funny, but they're super funny compared to this book. I went into this book thinking, honestly, I didn't read anything about it, but I just saw the cover. And it's kind of like a goofy cover, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, she goes to the library, lives all these adventures. I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. And then the first quarter of the book, I was like, Jesus Christ. And I will say, we've read some depressing books. At the end of this book, I was more depressed than I've ever been than any book. The ending wasn't good. It was a terrible, terrible, more depressing ending for me. I didn't get it.
It's funny that you said the Night at the Museum thing, because I used to read this children's book back in the day, and I can't remember what it was, but the premise was a brother and sister, I think, were in the Smithsonian and like got locked in for the weekend. Or either that or they were living at the Smithsonian. I think that's what it was. They were living at the Smithsonian like as life was going on around them, and they'd like go to the wishing well to like take money out to, buy food or whatever. But it was just kind of like their experience and their growth during that. And I kind of thought that's what this was going to be. But then the wife said, oh, if you like dark matter, it's very similar to that. And I'd say the similarities end at the point when it's like parallel universes. It is very different than dark matter.
Yeah. A lot different.
My next stock up is Schrödinger's cat. It's going to be a stock up every time for me when it's in a book that we read on the Buddy Book Club, because it gives me the opportunity once again to ask you to explain to me the thought experiment that is Schrödinger's cat, please.
You want
for our listeners? Yeah,
it's exactly like the Harvard or the 21.
No, the Stanford prison experiment.
No, the one where they say there's 2 goats in a thing of money behind these 3 doors, and then there's 2 doors and they added 3rd door or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? The 21.
This is going exactly as I expected. Go on.
I'm sure people love this. This is awesome.
So there's 2 goats. There's 3 doors. Behind 2 doors are goats.
Yeah,
behind one door is money.
Yes, he picks one of them, right? And then the person says, okay, I'm going to remove a door that didn't have the money behind it. Would you change your pick or whatever? Yeah. I don't know. You watch the clip. But anyways, every time it's the same thing where every time that I think of that, I have to go down a rabbit hole of figuring out how it works. Same thing as Schrödinger's cat. Every time one of these things comes up, I look it up, and every time I come away being like, no, I still don't get it.
I actually know less about
somehow. Yeah, and once you feel like you're a little bit confident in knowing what it is, then like someone explains something else and you're like, oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah. Well, I think the first one, I don't know how it works, the goat one, but I know you're always supposed to change your pick. Why? I don't understand. Like, I don't understand the why behind it. But I
always say do it the reverse order. It makes sense. That's what I think in my mind. I don't know if that is what helps me do it, but it makes sense. If there was 2 doors, one with money and one with a goat, and then they said, pick your door, you'd say that one. And they're like, okay, now we're just going to add an additional door and randomize it. Would you pick a different door? It's like, no, why would I do that? Like, I'd rather take the 50-50 chance rather than 30-30 33% chance.
No,
I think does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
Yes, exactly. See,
But also,
right.
also that has zero to do with Schrödinger's cat.
No, I know exactly. That's where I'm at.
Okay, cool. So you are both existing and not existing at the same time, and your brain is both attached to your body and not attached to your body at the same time. I love it.
I went on that 5-minute rant when you asked me about Schrödinger's cat.
Yeah, you're like, hold on, let me explain to you the different events in double
incorrectly. Yeah.
Did you have other stock up?
I had one more.
Yeah.
Correcting people stock up, which you just
I like to do that.
Which you just obviously flexed on here and did to me. But is there a better feeling in the world than telling people that, they spelled something wrong or they pronounced something wrong? Right? There isn't.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I wrote a whole blog about this. That's why Starbucks spells your name wrong, is because it's not you don't go there for the coffee. You go there to look down at someone and tell them how much of an idiot they are for spelling your name wrong. That's the whole reason.
I thought you were going to say, like, they make you feel like nobody and you're into, like, the shame stuff or whatever.
Oh, well, I'm into that. But I'm saying others others want to be like, you spelt Bethany wrong, and then they just, like, shit on the person, right? But I got that same ego boost from this book.
Okay.
Because first off, they kept on calling the audiobook I'm referencing, they kept on calling glaciologist a glassologist. And I was like, oh, she's really getting into like glass stuff? What does that have to do with the environment? I couldn't understand it.
You didn't understand accents because you listened to the audiobook.
Yeah, right. And then she's actually in like the North Pole, and she's like, and then there's like glacier there. And I was like, wait, a glacier? I was like, you idiot. Yeah, so really, I mean, obviously it was just that they're pronouncing it differently, but I'm the smart one here, okay? Yeah. I pronounce it glacier, and that's how you're supposed to say it. The second one was, which I live in California near La Jolla. It's spelled L-A.
La Jolla.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, what an absolute idiot pronouncing it La Jolla. And mind you, I pronounced it La Jolla for the first 100 times I ever said it. Everyone corrected me. I still read it as La Jolla. I'm looking at it right now, and I'm like, yeah, La Jolla. It's La Jolla, rather, I should say.
Oh, La Jolla.
That's how I read it. Yeah, that's how I read it every single time. So, but the arrogance and the ego boost I felt when she pronounced it wrong, phenomenal. But yeah. I still fuck it up.
So my mom's pretty big on mispronouncing words, or she adds S's to stuff like Panera's, Costco's.
I don't hate that. I don't hate it at all. I like it.
And
actually.
Then anything that ends in T-I-N-E, she changes to T-I-M-E for some reason. So like,
give me an example.
It's Valentine's Day, or you eat clementines. I have no idea where this came from.
Here's the thing. If you do the Italian hand gesture and say all those things exactly the same, that makes perfect sense to me. We're going to go to Costco's today, huh? And you're doing like the hand gesture.
She's not Italian.
No, but she is in my mind now. Okay. I mean, you put the S at the end, and you put the little Italian hand gesture. Yeah.
Costco's.
Yeah, exactly. Does it make sense now?
Yeah. My mom is Scandinavian, his third generation. But either way, I'm just saying I kind of inherited that from her because it's an endearment thing. Like I enjoy it as well. And I also tend to just like pronounce words how I like to pronounce them. I don't know where it came from, but people correct me often, and I usually just smile and nod and like act like, oh, okay. Yeah. You must be right. You know, they enjoy it. So you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I heard when you correct people, you should make fun of them because they learned it reading, which is a good skill. You know what I mean? Like if they don't know how to pronounce it, that just means they learned it because they read a lot. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's a good way to think of it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, never heard about that. Speaking about reading, my last stock up is The Internet Age. And this book wouldn't work before the Internet Age because how else would you know about yourself? You know, at one point, Nora, which we'll finally talk about the book, at one point, Nora, she's done a bunch of lives at this point, and she's like, oh, I'm doing my normal morning ritual, which is like go through my phone, which is always next to my bed, and Google myself, or like go onto my own social media accounts and see what's going on there. And that just makes too much sense because, granted, I don't really maintain much of a social media presence, and I'd be very confused by the social media posts from 10 years ago that are still there that are definitely inappropriate. But you'd at least have some idea of the person that you are. Mm-hmm. Outside of the Internet Age, I feel like you'd just be questioning everything and would not be able to like pull off the facade.
Do you think your personality would be that much different across different timelines?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's a lot of probably root stuff in there, but I think it, depending on big life events, mostly probably centered around trauma.
Oh, you went way different than I was. I was going to say like what would I be like if I hadn't watched Austin Powers? I'd probably be a different person. See, that's where I was going.
Okay.
you're like, oh, I'm going to do something serious. I'm like, oh, totally.
If I never saw Ace Ventura or like Jim Carrey stuff or Mike Myers stuff when I was a kid, I think I would probably have a different sense of humor, but not as much if I went on a Boy Scout retreat.
Jesus Christ. We bring Boy Scouts back up again?
Let's jump into some stock downs, but Jeff for stock down.
Classic. Stock down, public speaking. I mean, that's why we're doing this pod, or at least I am, to help with that a little bit.
We're talking to each other. What are you talking about? You're waiting for our first live show, and you're going to be like taking beta blockers nonstop. Like, you'll be like Nora, except instead of antidepressants, it's beta blockers.
But there's the old Jerry Seinfeld bit. It's that people are more scared of public speaking than dying. And so people would rather be in the casket at a funeral than giving the eulogy. And I always thought that was funny. But I agree with that. I completely agree. But she transfers into a body that she's a big public speaker, right?
Yeah, when she's the Olympic swimmer, retired.
So she's doing like a TED Talk, essentially, from in front of 1,000 people. And this is where it didn't really make any sense to me. This is where the book kind of lost me, is that her brain goes into that person's body. So like physically she changes, but everything else is exactly the same. Mm-hmm. She's not a good public speaker in real life. She's terrified. She goes up there. She doesn't prepare in any way. First of all, I'm already gone from that body. I'm out instantly.
Like there's big brown stain on my pants. Big brown stain.
I was scared for her, and I'm reading. I'm like, oh my God. And then she goes up there, and I'm like, oh, she's going to bomb, like, and then she'll leave. She goes off the cuff for 45 minutes, gives a 45-minute speech. There's nothing, no topic. I could go up there for maybe the chicken wing theory, but there's no other topic that I could go up there really and give a 45-minute speech off the cuff. There just isn't something I could do. And she delivers like an amazing speech in front of 1,000 people. What? So everyone's good at public speaking and it's not actually that scary? What's happening here, D-Man?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think probably how I explained it to myself, because I agree with you. How I explained it to myself, though, was that there's probably some of that other person in there, that other version of her, because she does occupy their body, so it is their brain, and who knows exactly how
I could see her not getting tired from speaking. Like, right, you would, if you're just not used to speaking a lot, you're just vocally, you would be tired, but I get that. That's physical, but mentally, she hasn't changed at all, I thought, right?
Yeah. Well, also, but later when she's in that other body for a while, the one that she loves with Ash or whatever, she starts to remember people's names and stuff like that who she had met in that life, but she personally hadn't. So I'm just thinking there's some neural connection going on. But additionally, did you ever, when we used to work together, did you ever get forced into those like learning events? I did a couple that were public speaking related, and one of them you did have to just like, you could go up and like talk about anything. Like it was like you have to go up and you have to talk. I think it was like 2 minutes. And honestly, like I could talk forever, but it was hard to try to think about something that I could like. I was like, what can I talk about for 2 minutes? I was like, maybe GoldenEye 64, you know? Like, so if you were put in that position, let's say 5 minutes, you had to talk for 5 minutes about one subject, what would you talk about?
I already said it. The chicken wing theory. I kind of have to have notes though with me, but it would need to be something you're super passionate about that people haven't heard. I think
the chicken wing theory, by the way, blog like probably 10,000 words on buddybookclub.com. You can check it out for yourself. I talked about bread making because you're just a big
yeast guy. Big into yeast.
Huge natural yeast guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I did. But I could talk about it for 5 minutes. I don't know if I could talk about it for 45 minutes. You know, you could talk about the Buddy Book Club for you know. You're all passionate about it.
We could talk about books, but we also like I could talk about a book for 5 minutes, but I need someone to respond to it. Otherwise, I'm just like, right, guys?
Oh, I meant more of just like bigger picture, not like a specific book. Like, yeah, if I could go up and talk about Harry Potter for an hour and I'll talk to people about Harry Potter. That's what I do anyways. You know what I mean? I walk into a room, I'm like, all right, so Ron Weasley, kind of a cuck, right? What's the deal? Okay, my first stock down is happiness. You know, because according to the book, you can't have happiness without sadness. So, you know, what's up with that? I don't want it to be that way.
There's a famous quote about
I was going to say, what does nap time say about it?
You can't appreciate the sun without the rain.
Mm-hmm. See, as much as he's a lyrical genius, I just don't want to agree with that sentiment. I wish that we could just have happiness without the sadness. it doesn't seem necessary. But honestly, I brought up this point because there were so many cliches and platitudes in this book that they just started to get stale real fast.
I was annoyed by we get it, you read philosophy books. I just didn't like being talked down to a little bit there. Like Henry David Thoreau from Concord, Massachusetts.
Concord, yeah.
How far were you away from Concord?
5 minutes.
Yeah, me too. Not that cool.
My next stock down.
Okay, I was like, she's like, one day I'm going to visit Concord, Massachusetts. Like, well, let me tell you what, you might kill yourself when you go there.
So yeah, this was my next stock down, and it's more of just a warning to people in general, and it's because of that part of the book when she was like, oh, I'm going to go visit Concord, Massachusetts and see where Henry David Thoreau spent his summer or whatever the case was. Walden Pond stock down. And don't get me wrong, Walden Pond is wonderful. But it's a pond, you know what I mean? It's like there's a nature trail around it. There's a little beach that you can go to. Probably by now you have to be a member to like go to that beach. And some points along the trail, you see different Henry David Thoreau stuff. Like this is where Thoreau sat and watched geese. And this is little stones that made up his house. The house isn't there. It's just like some rocks. So yeah, do not make your trip here to go to Walden Pond because there's lots of ponds in the world and Walden Pond is probably in the lower 50% of them. And I'm a big pond guy myself. I do enjoy a pond.
Yeah. All right.
Save yourself the trip. What else did you have for stock down?
Being nice and underperforming in the bedroom, stock down. I'm very, very familiar with one of these. I'm not going to tell you which one. When she has the life with the quote-unquote, like, boring dude. It's just a super, super nice dude that's into dogs.
Who, Dylan? Like, my boy?
Oh, his name's Dylan! Oh, is it? Okay. I didn't put two and two together. She's like, this is the most pathetic life I've ever been to. Like, I could see someone liking this. I can't see me liking this. I could see some pathetic person. Like, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And she's like, ooh, I would have to have sex with him? Like, yeah, this is like disgusting. I didn't realize like how gross nice people were apparently, but she was like immediately leaves that life, even though it seems like a ideal life for a normal person. But I guess whatever. And then, in a similar vein, it's getting a little dark, but she's meets up with Hugo, right? The guy that is also a slider.
Yep.
And they bond well, they connect together, and then they end up sleeping together. Mm-hmm. And in the middle of it, she's like, this isn't very good, and then just bounces in the middle of it. Can you imagine, one, from Hugo's perspective, being like, I'm doing a great job, and then the person just immediately leaving, right? Just being like...
I see what you're saying there, and yes, that would be a real stab to the confidence, for sure.
Huge stab to the confidence.
But they also said when... he was explaining to you what happens when someone leaves, and then they're like, oh, their eyes just go blank, and then they're like a little confused at where they are.
Which led to my second point.
Okay.
And then after this is where it gets dark. After you realize you're not performing well, the person awakens and thinks that you've drugged and are raping them. So can you imagine that? Like, not only are you doing a terrible job, but then they're like, holy shit, why did I get here? What are you doing to me?
Yeah, like, let's play this scene out because I feel like there's a lot more to dig out of here. So she straight up bounces. As the book says, Nora moves on. But in the other timeline, she bounces, that body starts freaking out like, what the hell is going on here? And then all of a sudden, other noises are being made like, what the heck's going on over there? And so Hugo's like, I'm out of here. So he bounces and then now he's back and he's like, wait, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And it's the two of them have no idea what's going on, but she woke up first. And then obviously like people are going to come in there and be like, Hugo, what the fuck? And so now that guy's really screwed. Like, she's concerned at the end. Nora's concerned about, I need to save this young boy who's getting into trouble with the police and should instead be playing piano. How many previous versions of yourself or parallel versions of yourself did you totally screw over by going on this quest? Specifically, that one with the polar bear, and the polar bear here is Hugo.
Hugo's done. He's fucked in that.
Like, this is almost like a Family Guy skit or something. Like, they both wake up from this situation. Like, well, what the hell are we doing here? So yeah, I guess we'll continue with this theme because my last stock down here is my own self-esteem. I think this book in general, The Midnight Library, it's kind of like a self-help book that is disguised as a novel. Similarly, I think to like The Alchemist. The Alchemist is like very clearly a parable and it's supposed to make you feel certain ways. And I think this is too, but it's less obvious. But, you know, it's supposed to make you appreciate the things you have and the little things matter, blah, blah, blah. But not me. Didn't do that to me because,
Nope.
you know, Nora had lives where she was a rock star. She's a glaciologist fighting polar bears. She's an Olympic swimmer. She's like a professor at Oxford for philosophy.
An author, a TED talker.
Yeah. For me, I just don't have that potential. Like this body, this husk,
Yep.
you know, it does not have that potential. I would go to the library and I'd see all these books and I'd open them up and they'd all be just very small variants of my current life. It would be like, you know, we have that book where you opened up. It's like, oh, this is the one where I didn't watch Austin Powers as a kid. So it's just like, yeah, I'm a little bit different. Like, okay, whatever. It's like, oh, yeah, this book is where instead of playing this sport in high school, you played that sport. It's like, or you live here as opposed to living there. I'd be the exact same person. Like, there's no books
you beat me
where
to it.
I am a NFL player.
Right,
you know?
right.
That's just not happening.
You 100% beat me to it. This is my big hate. I wrote like 3 paragraphs on my notes being like, da, 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 da. If I'm her, I'm actually depressed because she has all these insanely opportunistic venues she could have done. You could be a world famous singer. I took piano for 5 years. I went to a recital my 5th year. There was someone that was brand new that was 5 years younger than me. That was like 8, and they got up and played songs that are harder than I could. I could never be a musician. I just couldn't be it. I could never do it. I played baseball my whole life. Yeah, I probably could have been better, but I can't throw 90 miles per hour. There's a cap to what our skill levels are. Her caps are the best of all time at something. She could have been the Beatles or an Olympic swimmer like that. Yeah. Whereas we are, or at least me, I'm capping out at average. So I was just like, oh, so I'm a piece of shit. Like this person actually has a reason to be oppressed. I'm just terrible at everything.
100%.
It made me feel so bad.
Also, shouldn't she feel worse? Like, I know, yes, we should appreciate the little things and, you know, relationships and how you make other people feel super important. Like, I know all that stuff. But as a society, as a group, as a race, like, of human beings, we're taught that, like, nothing worse to waste than potential, you know? And so it's always really sad when you see people like Len Bias or someone like that who could have been the best basketball player of all time, you know, ends up dying due to drug overdose, or all these rock stars and musicians who died at like 26 because, once again, drug overdoses. But she just decided pretty much like, I want to work at this crappy guitar store, and she has all of this potential. So after
and she has all these skills.
Yeah. After you saw that, oh, I have all that ability in me, and then didn't do those things, I feel worse about myself.
Yeah, that's the reason too. It's depressing. It's like you get done and you're like, oh, I don't have any of these skills. Well, what if I wanted to do a life change or do something different? She can do it. Any field she could go to. Me?
Yeah.
I literally have no skills. What am I going to do? You know? Yeah. So I was just like, this is the most depressing thing I've ever read.
And Nora goes back to like become a piano teacher. Like, hold on, hold the phone. Like, go back and do your studies. Become the like, you want to change lives? You have that ability to change lives. Changing people's lives like one at a time over piano. I don't know. I'm more of like a do it for the bigger picture kind of thing. You know, maybe she's taking her pianos to YouTube.
Yeah, we were on the exact same page there.
Okay, cool. So we don't obviously have necessarily a favorite scene, but I would like to know what your favorite life choice would be for her. So we've talked about a couple, but polar glacier expert, Olympic swimmer, small town pub owner, superstar musician, philosophy professor with a wonderful husband and child. What's your pick?
Is this for me or is this for her?
I don't know. You can do it as you want to do it. In this version, in this universe, it could be one thing, and in a different universe, it could be another thing. So, you know, however you want to take that question, go for it.
I think I would be the musician, but not as famous. Like, you know, like a middle tier musician. So you can walk down the street and not be recognized, but also you get to, I think it would just be cool traveling the world, playing music, doing something you have fun doing. And, but yeah, I would try to take a tier down from that, if that makes sense.
Really interesting. I don't know if those two things collide. Like, yes, you can obviously travel the world but I think you'd probably be recognized, you know. You don't have to be like T Swift, but like you're saying like maybe Tool or someone like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'd never know who Tool is, but they sell out arenas, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Like literally less pop music-y, you know, so there's more like of an area
more
there.
of a niche, yeah.
Yeah, like they're not getting interviewed. If they showed up at a football game, it wouldn't be on TV. Like, oh, look at the lead singer of Tool's here. I don't even know the guy's name.
You don't want to be Travis Kelce, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's a tough one. If she didn't own the pub in the
You're going
pub
with that,
life,
dude. Jesus.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like he'd go to the curb like real quick, like see ya. But he owns the pub, and she seemed to have better ideas with it anyways. And then she also has that musical talent, so she could use it at the pub, you know, play a little piano. Mm-hmm. There's just something dignifying and humbling about being a small town pub owner in Ireland or something like that. Just, it sounds nice.
I also think, though, that whenever you think of being at a bar or a pub, you're in the best mood you're going to be in. It's Friday, you're having drinks, you know, after work, you're blowing some steam off. If it's a Tuesday and you're hungover after drinking on a Monday night and you have to open the bar up, I don't know about that. I don't know if I really would love that.
But I don't think I would have a drinking problem. Like, I don't think that would happen to me.
I'm not saying a drinking problem. I think you're just like, you know, on a Monday night, you're like at a bar, there's a thing of scotch in front of you, and you're like, I'll have a sip. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, it's there. Yeah. It's like if I own a pizza place, I'm eating pizza every night, even though I don't want to eat pizza every night. It's just like, I'm doing it.
Fair.
You know,
that's fair. The Olympic swimmer doesn't sound too bad. Obviously, you'd lose a lot of your early life to swimming, but you retire early. You just walk, you know, you do some chats around the globe. I wouldn't want to
speak. Yeah. Or swim, for that matter. To be fair.
Yeah. We don't really have a favorite character here. Do you want to pick a character? I mean, I don't think Dylan got his fair shake. You kind of talked about that before. Yeah, he lives with a bunch of dogs. Just get him a Dyson stick vacuum, the Animal V11. It works great. Probably shouldn't have that many dogs, but at the same time, whatever. You know, he's saving animals. So, seemed like a nice guy. And I don't really know what her deal was. I think he had like 10 dogs though, so that might be a lot. But
yeah,
he's an animal
lover. Good guy. Yeah, he's just too nice, I guess. I don't know. I liked Izzy, the Australian friend.
The whale person?
Anytime she visited Australia, that she just immediately died. Is that how that worked? I didn't, like, there's no book where she could open where she could actually hang out with her friend and see if the life was good there. Like,
yeah.
It didn't make any sense to me.
He's like, oh, what happened to Izzy? It's like, oh, she's dead. What? Yeah. Okay, let's open a different book. Like, no, let's not. Let's just hang out here.
No matter what happens, you fly to Australia, she dies.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, it seemed like there must have been a nice life in there that they didn't want to go into. So I liked Izzy as well. And also they rekindled it on her regular life, her root life. Love, hate, what did you love?
I thought it was entertaining at parts. It was cool to kind of jump around the lives and see the different stories or different settings that she could have been in. And, you know, I think they were all written well. Being a rock star, what that would be like versus being a TED Talk person, you know, all these different things. So I thought that was just entertaining. I thought it was a cool way to do things. I mean, that's why I like the show Sliders, you know, so.
Yeah, it would be interesting, like, of an episodic nature, just because it is episodic, you know, like one, you wake up into a different life kind of thing. And I thought they were pretty good as well. The beginning of the book definitely had me. It wasn't one of those ones that I was kind of confused or didn't really fall into at the beginning, because we kind of knew where it was going to go. I mean, maybe not the, like, her offing herself part. I was interested in the character Nora from the jump. And so I liked that aspect of the book. Did you like anything else?
I thought it was a metaphor for drug use. Do drugs and you end up in the midnight library, and then you're just chasing different stories and different lives, but you end up realizing that nothing's going to make you happy. You need to find happiness yourself. It's not the drugs.
Whoa,
deep, huh?
Keith,
Yeah,
we're reading a real book club
Henry
book,
David
and
Thoreau.
you give a book club response. Wow.
Yeah, I was looking out at the seagulls at Walden Pond, and that came to me.
I don't know if there's seagulls there. There's like ducks.
Ducks? Yeah. A couple ducks in the pond? All right.
Probably. Okay. Yeah, I could see that making sense.
And it would be a cool movie idea. They should name it Butterfly Effect. All right, I'll see my way out.
I actually need to rewatch that.
It was pretty dark, I remember.
We rewatched, because Caroline hadn't seen it, Ex Machina, your favorite movie.
You liked it?
We watched it the other day.
That's tense, no?
It wasn't, no. I liked it less the second time I watched it, actually.
All right, good for you. Good for you, all right. Must be nice.
Nothing better than shitting on things people love. Speaking about which, should we do that here in case anyone did love The Midnight Library? You want to get into some hates? What'd you hate?
I mean, firstly, it's too predictable.
Yeah,
it's just way too predictable. The ending of the story is known at the beginning of the story.
Exactly.
You can't have someone... It'd been great if she committed suicide and then was like, by the end, she's like, no, that was a good choice. It'd be really dark, but I mean, at least it wouldn't be predictable. But you knew she was going to eventually find a reason to go back to her real life.
It seems like, I am going to assume the author consciously did that, didn't include any of the typical like twists or turns we'd see in this book. It's not supposed to be confusing to you at all. Like, it's supposed to be super straightforward and you know how it's going to play out from the jump.
But you knew every time she jumped to a different place that you're just like, okay, what's going to be bad with this one? Instead of being like, this could be the one.
I honestly didn't like it either, but I just felt like I needed to say that I think based on how it was written, because it's so blatant, that the author probably meant to do it.
It should have just been she wakes up in the Midnight Library and she's like, why am I here? And then and Mrs. Elma's just like, you tell me. What? And then she's like, see, here's all the books you can choose. You can choose any life you want. She's like, is this real? He's like, I don't know. And like, you just don't know what's going on. And so she's just picking out lives and things like that. And then eventually she's like, can I just go back to my real life? And then she goes back and she like finds out that she committed suicide or tried to. Then you have this whole mystery that's wrapped in it. And there's like not this like, well, she's just going to go back to her real life, obviously. So I think it would have been much better payoff at the end. And you took something away from it. You'd been like, oh, she could have done all these lives, but she chose not to.
Yeah, she just wakes up like Austin Powers, like, where am I? You're in the Ministry of Defense. This life, I'm glad I saw Austin Powers at 12.
Yeah, that's key. That's
very
key.
important.
100 times that is, you saw it, I'm sure.
So many. Gets better every time. Unlike Ex Machina. Yeah, so that was on my list too. Okay, I got to get into my biggest hate though, which is all the bad parts of her lives. So when she's a rock star or a swimmer, like these epic lives, all of the bad parts that at the end like drew her out of these lives were just deaths in her family. Like that was the out. It was like, oh, the brother's overdoses in her famous singer life. Oh, I'm out of this one. Her mom dies in her swimmer life because her dad cheated on her with some other swimming lady. It's like, oh, well, that's terrible. And then her dad dies in like her normal life, which is why she doesn't want to be there. But it just seemed like those were all like outs because there was easy outs. It was just, and maybe that's just a point that your close relationships matter the most. But the singer life, you could have very easily gone into all of the terribleness that is being famous. Not being able to shop at a grocery store or simple things like that are just terrible. And in her swimmer life, maybe it was taxing on the body and she doesn't feel great, even though she does feel great. She's in great shape. I don't know. There's just something else you can do besides like those are the first two big ones. And then she's like, wait, where's mom? It's like, oh, mom's dead. It's like, I'm out. It's like, what? But then the worst part of it all is in her favorite life, which is when she marries Ash. She's like the philosophy professor and she has her daughter who she loves. She's like, oh, where are my mom and dad? It's like, they're both dead. And she's like, all right, let's keep going with this one. It's like, wait, what? In all of the other ones, it was a deal breaker because one parent was dead. And now in this life, both your parents are dead. And you're like, yeah, I don't have any parents. He doesn't have any parents. We're just it, We're it for our family. That's it. So I was very confused.
In other lives, she has kids, by the way, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't really understand why she's like, oh my God, there's a kid here.
Yeah.
And this is my kid? And it's like, you just said you've been to 100 lives with 100 kids. What is it? What? Why do you care? This is just another day for you.
I was waiting for the kid to be like, when she was doing the game, like, all right, what's daddy's name? I was waiting for the kid to be like, cut the shit, mom. All right. It's too early for this. I'm tired. Like, I know dad's name. I know your name. I know the phone number, whatever. Let's move on. I just didn't like that. It seemed like that was just too easy of an out for all those. What else did you ever hate?
I already said it, but you studied philosophy. We get it.
Who's a philosophizer?
Yeah, like just all right, we get it. Don't need to shove it down our throats.
Yeah, I think like once again, that was more of the self-help book part of this. It was just like all these philosophy ideas about appreciation and love the one you're with, whatever the case is. It's like all a bunch of malarkey, if you ask me. But my other hate was Root Life Ravi. So when she's going through her tough time at the beginning, which I felt really bad for Nora, like all the terrible things were happening at once to her, and she runs into Ravi, and he's all pissed at her because she walked out of the band. Mind you, this isn't like John Lennon leaving the Beatles at the height of their fame. Ravi's insinuating that her brother is depressed and he needs to move out of his flat because he's not playing lead guitar for a successful rock band. Buddy, you were playing in pubs. Like you were, hey, at 7.
They were supposed to sign a deal, though.
I know. They were, quote unquote, about to sign a deal, but they didn't. And he admitted even in the saying, he's like, oh, the pubs don't pay that well anymore. But you don't know what was going to come out of that deal. How many people sign record deals?
Kid, when Spotify comes to us and gives us that big contract with all the fans we've gotten, and you say, I'm out, I'm going to blame you for sure. So let's not get it twisted here, all right?
I just didn't like Ravi putting it all on Nora because Ravi wasn't even that good. Nora could have kicked him to the curb, picked someone else out. Like Nora was the talent. They even said it in that other life, like she wrote all the songs. Like she's our Daisy Jones here. And Ravi ain't no. And
bro, you're just named after a pasta. So just shut the fuck up. How about that?
Ravioli.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll stay in. I'll be here all week.
That was her comeback. But yeah, I didn't like that he was coming up to her because they used to play a couple pub gigs and insinuating that her brother is depressed because of the shit she did. Do you want to cast it?
I did a quick casting. Nora, I did Daisy Ridley, Star Wars.
Oh, yeah. Let's go there.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
And then Mrs. Elm. I mean, anytime it's a British older lady that's
Emma Thompson
guiding your life, Judi Dench every time.
I could see it. I think an Emma Thompson would be pretty good.
Who am I thinking of?
Emma Thompson's in all sorts of stuff.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of the Harry Potter girl.
Well, she isn't. She plays Trelawney in Harry Potter.
Oh, no, but I'm thinking of the Hermione.
No, that's Emma Watson. Yeah, we should just get the whole Harry Potter cast back. But honestly, if this was on TV, if they were coming out with a movie about it, whatever the case is, no thank you. I'm good. Appreciate you.
They could definitely do a lot with it. I think it'd be interesting. They could make it sliders.
Yeah. Keith, would you recommend The Midnight Library by Matt Haig to others?
I think it was entertaining enough, but I wouldn't recommend it. I think if we're looking at the Goodreads score, I'd probably give this a 3, but it's closer to a 2.5. I think it's fine. I just don't think it's for me. If you're into philosophy, you'd like this a lot more, and there probably is a lot more that you can glean from it other than my rudimentary takeaways. So not for me. I probably wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely not.
You're a little bit more.
Yeah,
hardcore.
Absolutely not. It was definitely in the bottom quartile of books we've read for me.
It didn't anger me. Some of the books I really didn't like, it just angered me. This one was just predictable.
No,
it wasn't
that's what I'm saying. Like it was just like
know.
it was a snooze fest. Honestly,
Okay, yeah,
I was just like, okay, this is like I get it. You're into another life, and there's going to be a point of this life where you're like the individual life wasn't that interesting, and then I knew you were going to get out of it. And we all know that you're going to go back to your root life and you're going to start appreciating the things that you have and, the small things that you do for other people and how that impacts their lives. Like, yeah, I got it. I get it. It could have been a short story, like 50 pages, because there's no real character development outside of Nora. And she doesn't even really develop necessarily. It's kind of like she just realizes.
If you've ever read any self-help books, the first chapter just summarizes everything you're about to read, and then you don't need to read the rest of the book.
Oh, so yeah, 100%.
That's what this is.
Yeah, 4-hour work week. I turned that into a 4-page book. It was wonderful. I know it got a lot on at least the Reddit, our books, the subreddit. It got a lot of hate and for being overrated, and I agree. And I think it's because it does appeal to a mass audience, and it does do a good thing of putting a narrative and like this story attached to these like self-help philosophical ideas, which is nice. That's a nice idea, but it's not a book that I would read and would suggest someone else read. If someone else liked it, I could see why someone else liked it.
Yeah. I also think
understand.
we come from an angle where we like a lot of sci-fi, a lot of this type of time travel type things like that. We have a history of it. Whereas if you're not into that, and you kind of, this is the first context of it, I could see you being like, wow, that's a really creative thing. You've never seen anything like this, right? So I think that would make it a little bit more interesting.
I also think you can still have a moral point, and you can get to the same place that he's going with this without making it such of a self-help book. Like, there can be something that has a strong narrative that's fun to read, that's exciting, that also you leave thinking some of these thoughts. So
yeah, for sure.
Kind of like Dark Matter was. And I don't even remember Dark Matter anymore. I just remember enjoying it. So we've done this. Scary Stories doesn't really count. It was fun, but it wasn't really a book. And then what did we do? Flower Moon, like that wasn't good. Like, we need to switch it up. We need to change gears. We need to go to that life where we didn't read these books. What do we got coming up?
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes.
And we just had Halloween.
Roald Dahl, and that's how I say it, just from reading the books. He is my number one childhood author, without question.
Ooh, okay, I like that.
Boy, which is his memoir, I guess, or whatever, like kid's book memoir kind of thing. His autobiography. Oh, I loved it as a kid. Like, I wrote so many like 4th grade book reports on it, or whatever the case was. And Matilda, The Witches,
James and the Giant
Peach.
Great
Yeah.
book.
I mean, I've read the Charlie and the Glass Elevator, like the Charlie Meets the Aliens on the Glass Elevator, whatever those ones are. Like, when you suggested this, I was jazzed because I have not gone back. BFG. We didn't even talk about BFG. I haven't gone back and read any of the Fantastic Mr. Fox. Like, what? So yeah, I'm just excited to get back into it. You might convince me to like read more of his books because I fucking love them. So yeah, we got Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and then what are we getting?
And then Separation of Power. Vince Flynn. God. So the Mitch Rapp series continues. We needed to just get back to bread and butter.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm excited. We'll probably get Charlie and the Chocolate Factory out pretty quickly because it's a short one. But this was the Midnight Library, and we'll catch y'all for the next one. Bye now.